My name is Theodore Cottingham. I'm a simple common guy in Eureka Springs, Arkansas, and I've begun the school of me, the school of God, the school of us, the school of one, the school of many consciousnesses, all being one, the God mind of one, interconnected with all of the God mind of one. You see, I don't think we've known who we are. We've been taught since birth that we are a boy, a girl, a human. And the things that we don't control or understand why they happen, how they happen, we attribute to something we call God. Acts of God. So we have perpetrated all these ideas onto one another because most of the time when we talk with each other, people tend to tell each other how it is. We're not really very good as a race at asking questions and coming up with something together, except sometimes in science. Sometimes there are sets of people that have values and ascribe to those values to work together, listen to each other, build on each other's ideas, comments, and questions, motivating each other, providing a synergy of leadership, the leadership of the whole, people coming together with a mentality of an equal, instead of the mentality of an automatic, who the hell do you think you are? Why do you think you know this? You can't do this. You can't do that. You're not God. You're not. You can't. How many times have we heard those phrases? But there's another way to live. I began to realize in my quest to know God, I wanted to be me. I never, ever thought about during those first decades that the more I would know God, the more I would know me. And that God would reveal me to me. And God would reveal to me I was never separate from God. But you see, I had this nature. You can call it the nature of man. You can call it the separated nature, the sin nature. You can call it whatever you want. But it's a nature, a way of thinking that was programmed. And it was programmed by genetics. It was programmed by my parents, by my experiences, by my teachers, by what I surrendered to read, listen to, and sing. I wasn't taught from birth that I was the creator or even a creator. So many of us are taught we're stupid, cursed with all types of nouns that demean us and demean each other. But I suggest those words, even though they have a tremendous effect on us, and they in fact, have a force. They have a result. It's like so many words impress themselves on us. Even the words of comments, the words of people we don't know, people we think we'll never see. They make some random comment debasing us, our looks, or what we think we're experiencing. And so many have the automatic reaction to condemn, bash. I use that word bash. I mean, just bash the hell out of other people. Just because they can, just because they don't think like you, like us, like me. Why do we bash each other? Why do we debase each other? Why do we have war with each other? What are we doing to each other? Is there any love? Is there any love between us? Why aren't we taught to love? Why aren't we taught to love the black people, the white people, the brown people, the blue people, the people we don't understand, the people that look funny, smell funny, don't dress like us, don't think like us? Why do we draw a circle around us and our beliefs and accept us as being right, being who we are, or at least who we think we are in our own eyes? Well, there are many ways to think we're right, but the ways, in the end, are the ways of death. And so many people even ascribe to a Bible verse that says it is appointed to every person to die. Well, I don't believe that. I don't believe those words over what Jesus said. Jesus said, if you believe in me, you will never die. But of course, people come along with their interpretation. And they say, oh, that means such and such, because they're ignorant. They define it in what they can see. They define it in their logic. They define it in the definitions that were programmed into them. And we go to school to learn the definitions of other people. We seldom live by our words. But you have the capacity to. You have the capacity to come out of what has created you to have war with yourself and want God to be separate and want to save your soul and want to go to an imaginary place, heaven, not hell. You want to experience peace, so you do what it takes to numb your brain, numb your consciousness, drink yourself loony, inject crazy things that make us hallucinate, anything for a few moments to escape the war within. Haven't you been there? Thank you for letting me have coffee with you today. I appreciate the privilege to share. I don't take it lightly. So this idea, why we have the war within. So we have this internal consciousness somehow. We think we're conscious. We think, so we think, therefore, that I am, that I have some kind of existence because we're having some kind of shared experience where There's so much brutality, so much condemnation. I suggest to you, we don't know who we are. Really. We say we're humanity. You see, we have this rational logic or irrational logic. We have some type of mind. We have some kind of feeling of what's real, what we can touch, etc., right? So we think, well, of course, this is all I see, so what I see is the real world. This is my reality. This is your reality, and you should think like I think. Isn't that what everybody thinks? Everybody has a propensity to propel their thought on other people. They project with their own power, the power of their might, the power of their words, the power of their thought, the power of the energy that energizes them. So you see, we haven't known who we are. I suggest to you, as long as you think God, what we've called God, and that also needs to be redefined. Not everybody's God is the same, so what really are we trying to say? But as long as you think God is someone else, you think God is something else, if you think God is somewhere else, and you are separate from God, so that you want to bow before God, you want to accept God into you, you want to worship God, sing to God, study about God, you want to feel God's presence. As long as you see God as something other than you, you will be at war with you. The war within comes from your own consciousness against you. You have this mind being taught that God is something else. Agitation, aggravation, impatience, judgment, condemnation. As long as we want God to be somewhere else, as long as anybody, as long as you want God to be what your image of God is, you will be at war. You won't know perfect peace. I suggest you won't even know what it is. Even if you become peaceful within yourself, meditating day and night, fasting and praying, sacrificing anything you think and everything you think you can sacrifice, coming to a state of mortal bliss, you haven't begun. You don't know what perfect peace is. We haven't been told. We haven't been taught. We have been taught to do, to come into God's presence. Well, by the very fact of those words, it creates separation. We've been taught to worship God. So by the very fact, you see, of that phrase, it's implicit. It's inherent in the meaning of those words. Come to worship God? that God is something else. Hence, you create the separation. If you're going to worship something, if you're going to bow before something, if you're going to give your life to something, if you're going to ask something else within you, then does it not follow that you must have been separate before that? That is what causes the war within. It's not rocket science. You have the power within you that you thought was God, because the kingdom of heaven is within you. Not because you accept it, not because you worship it, because you are it. And the only way I suggest to you to come into peace, to come into perfect peace, is not to sacrifice. It's not to pray your way into it. It's not to learn your way into it. But it's to come as a child, to begin to surrender to who you are. Who you are. Who you really are underneath that flesh. Who you really are in your consciousness. Who you really are, not limited by what you've been taught, nor what you see in your mirror, or what you've heard on the radio, TV, church, or some holy book. You are more than enough. And my friend, you are not unworthy to be you. And I suggest to you, this takes great humility. And the people who don't understand what I'm saying, what I'm trying to communicate, articulate, in a manner that opens eyes and sets free many people from the war within. People who don't understand this, who want to think like they've always thought, who want to be right in their own eyes. You can see how quickly they will want to bash me. Call me Antichrist. Call me Satan. Call me Theodore, a simple guy in Eureka Springs sharing this message. But they're ignorant. They don't know. They haven't paid a price to come into the holy place. The holy place. The temple not made with hands. The Holy of Holies. Between your ears. Between their ears. There's a price to pay. Because we have been so programmed to create the separation, because in our mind, we can create anything we want to. We can create any belief we want to. Anybody can create with their mind, their imagination. They create. And if they hear a belief, read a thought, have a thought, create a thought that they want to believe is true, it's true to them. It's their reality. But I suggest to you, the reason you can do that, the very reason you even have an imagination, that you can think and create that you can work together or you can work separately, or the fact that you even can articulate a vocabulary. Actually, the reason you exist is because the mind of God is not separate from your mind. That mind is inextricably connected together, and you cannot separate it. You can only fight it. You can damn it. You can worship it. And the mind of separation doesn't care whether you hate it, damn it, or worship it. It doesn't matter. It just wants to remain in separation. The human mind just wants to remain in separation, where it can decide what is truth. It wants to be in control. It wants to be the commander of the commandments. Do you see what I'm saying? This is not first grade stuff, but it's not rocket science. You don't need a PhD or something to understand. If that helps, maybe it hinders. I have a doctorate in leadership. School that's accredited by some higher education authority who determines what I get taught. I learn this and surrender day after day, coming before God, saying, I want to know you. Here I am, God. God, here I am. God, teach me. God, correct me. God, correct me. I begged for correction. Hundreds, thousands of times for years. And as this communication began to take place with me, within the holy place, the Garden of Eden, the Garden of Creation, your inner self, your inner mind, the holy place of your mind that you no longer keep you out of. You're no longer the angel that is posted there to keep you out of the garden. You see the picture, you see the story, you see the allegory. No one can keep you out of your garden, of your temple, of your creation, because you are the creator of it. You, my friend, created you. We were the creator. We, you, listening to me at this moment, all of us, we comprised, we were, using words trying to understand each other, we were the mind of God. Because the mind of God is not a unitary, solitary thing. It's the consciousness of the I am. I am that I am. I am that all that is. The energy that transcends time, space, and gravity, transcends this earth. Over and over, God taught me, what I am, you are. That simple phrase puzzled me for a long time, even day after day, God explaining, day after day, as I would come to prayer, I would come with my pen in my hand and a yellow tablet, and I would sit down and surrender. And when I began, I would just sit It wasn't meditation. I don't meditate. I haven't meditated. I've never understood meditation, really. But I understand surrender. I understand that I can think, you can think. And I understand coming as a child with no pretense. When I say no pretense, I mean no beliefs between you and God. I became what some would call radical. I began to write the first person words of God because I felt like God was instructing me. There was a stream of energy that bypasses my logic, that I don't let my rationale interfere with. And that energy teaches me. That energy gives me light. That energy uses my words, in one sense, because I have a vocabulary. I know a lot of words. I don't know them all. And sometimes God has given me new words, concatenated words, words to laugh with, words to correct me, words to instruct me, and teach me that I was experiencing day after day the operation of the new covenant. And I began to study the new covenant. I didn't know what it was. I'd heard the words. I knew some people would call the new covenant Jesus. They call it the New Testament of the Bible. But I began to study it diligently. And I suggest to you, so many people, they throw around. Many people toss out a lot of words very confidently, eloquently, and they don't have a clue. And you, my friend, are responsible for you. You are responsible for you. And it's time we accept the responsibility to be who we are. And who we are is not limited to this 3D, frictionated, fracking world that wants to rape the earth for its energy. I'm telling you, there's more. There's more. There's more joy. There's more peace. You can quell the war within, but not by your power. It's not something you can control as much as we want to control it. We can't get our arms around it and lasso it and tie it down in knots and chains. Because the more we do that, the more it chains us. The war within is tortuous. You can't save it. You cannot save your soul. Nobody, nothing, anywhere is going to save your soul. If anything, it's the center of your torment. But the real you, the true energy of you, the essence of you, for lack of a better word, is light. For lack of a better word, love. It's light love. It's love light. It's something we haven't understood because we've been so cooperative and complicit in the compelling, the conditioning of the creation of separation. And we paid a price. We paid a price. The mind that you are born with is the accuser of the brethren. The mind separated that thinks it is separated is what Satan is. It's what we've called Satan. It's the operation of separation. Hell is not something you go to. Hell is between your ears, and so is heaven. And you're experiencing it every day, day by day. The war within, or you're learning how to walk through the flames. Like the 3 Hebrew children, the flames and the swords of public opinion, family opinion, and the spouses who reject you. There's a cost. There is a cost to quell the war within. But you can do it, and no one can keep you from it because the kingdom of heaven is within you. And you are not separate. And you don't need religion to paint you a picture of God so that you can worship it, so you can accept it, to keep them in control, to keep your mind at war with you, to keep you going back, to hear the same story 3,000 ways, 6,000 ways. How many hundreds and thousands and millions of times have people prayed the sinner's prayer? What did that do for us? It didn't make me a new creation, and I prayed it hundreds of times. Am I saved? When I began to seek God, I began to realize how ambiguous God was. What's this idea about God, the Lord God, and all these names for God? What's this idea about the Trinity? What do you mean, Holy Spirit? Father? Where's the mother? And the more I asked questions, when I first started, I went to religious pastors, leaders that I respected. Some I'd sat under for years. And I began to ask questions. And I was so naive. I actually thought I might be complimented because I was pursuing God. I wanted to know God intimately. I wanted my questions answered. I wanted help. But without fail, I went in naive, and I came out crushed because all of a sudden I was a problem child. I was a problem. Who are you to question me? Who are you to question my authority? Why are you asking these questions? Why aren't you happy just to come to church and sit on a pew? Oh my gosh. I tell you, there's more. No matter how loving you think some of these people are that stand in the pulpit and beg for your money and try to paint a picture that you need them, you need God, you need the Bible, you need faith, I suggest to you, faith, the way it is taught, is based in fear. And I mean that. You think you're creating one thing, but you're really creating something else. Because what's the motive? What's the result? Are you learning to let God teach you directly? If God does not teach you directly, I suggest to you that you will not come into the point of transformation where you truly generate the power of healing to change your genetics, healing your consciousness, no longer letting your mind accuse you of being separate, accuse you of being unworthy, accuse you of being ignorant, accuse you of being ugly, too fat, too skinny, too this, too that. You're not the elite. You're not the aristocrat, the bourgeoisie, or are you the lowest caste? What's all this categorization for? Condemnation. You see, when we begin to learn who we are, I suggest you learn that and I'll tell you the key. I can give you the key, but I cannot turn it for you. I cannot enter your holy place for you. I can give you the key, but you choose whether or not to use that key. And you choose whether you use that key, not one time, but day after day. Because you have the privilege to come into the holy place. You have the invitation of God to come sit at the table of one with God in the garden, at your coffee table. When you quit bashing you, you'll quit bashing other people. When you quit bashing other people, you'll quit bashing you. I hope, I suggest, because you have the power. You determine what you want because you are the creator of you. You are the determinant of your consciousness and what you are willing to contain, restrain, or learn and create. Oh, you want the key? So many of us want, but we don't want to pay the price. The price is great. The price is time. The price is laying aside our belief system that has taught us to be separate from each other, separate from God. You know why I say, I love you, no matter what you've done, no matter what you haven't done, no matter what you look like, no matter what language you speak or don't, or what God you worship? How can I say I love every person on earth? Because I know that the energy of the essence of the real you is what God is, that I'm calling God of light, love, and peace. The God that I have come to know, that I speak of day after day, has no fear of me and teaches me to have no fear of it. And it has no condemnation of you. So you want the key. The key to heaven? Where's heaven? The kingdom of heaven is within you. God is within the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven. The key is surrender. It's not asking God to come into you. It's not asking God to forgive your sins. There is no vicarious atonement. There is no holy book that God canonized. There's the living word that God will teach you through your own mouth and your own pen. And this, my friend, is why I exist, to share with you these words that you can choose to quell the war within. So you no longer need Prozac. You no longer need a bunch of antidepressants. You no longer need to go get a prescription to try to have medicine to get through the day because of depression, discouragement, despondency. Let us no more be ignorant of who we are. There's only one power that can turn the key that I just gave you. The key is surrender. You cannot tap into this. And if you want to tap into it, go study somewhere else. Go be afflicted with somebody else's affliction that wants to afflict you with what they think. The only way you can turn the key of surrender is coming in humility as a little child. And that's somehow I stumbled in and I learned. I meandered, I wandered in the wilderness seeking God for decades to learn what I'm sharing with you. A little child doesn't come to you and say, answer my prayer according to this book. I suggest one of the most powerful prayers in the world. Here I am. Over and over and over. Even after I felt God ask me one day, will you give me your mornings? I was shocked. I literally, when that thought entered my mind, I did this. I thought, my mornings, that will affect my income. That's what I did. And at the time, I was afraid to answer. So I decided I wouldn't reply in words. I would simply see if I could. And I determined that I would. So I never had to answer the question verbally. I answered it with my action. And believe me, it changed my income. It changed my family. It changed my friends. It changed what I began to do, what I began to know. And it was a lonely path. It's costly. But you can come and begin how to pray, how to know, how to come in contact with God in a way where God will teach you directly. Come as a child with no pretense, no demands. Don't come to God for what God can do for you. Come to God with the heart that says, I want to know you. Teach me, correct me. And if you ask for a fish, will God give you a stone? No. So I've shared how to quell the war within. You come to a place where you are willing to surrender, to know God directly. You're willing to surrender to be who you really are so that you are no longer upholding the facade of any false humility, saying, I'm not God. I'm not God. I'm worthless. I'm powerless. I'm a grasshopper. You begin to change your thinking and your consciousness. You begin to come into the light of the world, the light that is pure love, the pure light and love that does not condemn each other, you first. You begin to turn off those neurons that say you're unworthy. And those word phrases that have held you captive to be in the cast of the unworthy will no longer hold you. You are the only one who can cast your chains off. And it's not through prayer. It's not through a miracle. It's not through an act of God. It's through a process of surrender to become who you really are. When you start creating, living in the consciousness of the mind of God, you begin to see the powerlessness of that which has condemned you to be at war with yourself. I have said much. I have said a lot. I have given you my heart, and I have given you years of learning in these few minutes, 50 minutes. And I suggest to you, if you want to know what I've said, that you do more than listen. You see, there's an intention to learn, and there is the discipline to become in motion. I invite you to study with me as I continue to learn me. I continue to learn about us, a race that's no longer separate from God because we no longer create the separation. And we begin to learn that this is the Garden of Eden we've called Earth. The holy place is between our ears. And we quit bashing each other, beginning with the person in our mirror. You are lovely, and you are loved. I love you, and I call you the loveliest on earth. Be not limited to earth in your mind. Be no longer separate. Be the one you really are, the essence of God. The Holy Spirit is you. Your consciousness that you think you're separate with is what God is. The energy of God, the essence, the consciousness of one. So be not so bold to declare God null and void in you and that you exist separate if you want to quell the war within. And if you want to learn, if you want to know what I've said, if you want to know what I've said, if you want to be intimate with the Word that creates the Word of the living Word, that creates the consciousness, not of confusion, not of conquest, not of control, but one of surrender to be who you really are. Listen to these words again tonight. Listen to them in the car. Download them. Record them. Play them. Instead of a bunch of music, a bunch of other stuff, a bunch of news that riles you up. You are responsible for you. And if you want the Word, you learn to eat the Word so that it does not eat you. Others' words exist on energy. You are that energy. Don't propel the energy of others that rob you from your joy. You are the heaven creator. Heaven is within you, and you regenerate it. And this is the new birth that you become. And you want the big picture outcome? What's the result of all this? A life of surrender? Let me tell you, this is a life. The life of surrender that I'm talking about is a life of leadership, because you learn to lead you without anybody else following. And even if everybody else forsake you, you begin to learn the presence of the real you. And it's no longer a God afar off coming to you, to meet you, to bless you, to drink their cup. You begin to realize you're you. And you're no longer seeking someone's acceptance. You're no longer looking for acceptance in a group. You're no longer looking for just people to subscribe to you, validate you, corroborate you, or say they think you're swell. You begin to learn a composition of poise and presence in the leadership of surrender to lead you to grow the mind that is not separate from the God of love, light, and peace, to be at torment with you no more, so that you slay the giants, you slay the words. You don't slay people. You don't damn them anymore. You realize who they really are. And even if they condemn you and spit in your face, you have the power to turn around and walk off, or even walk through them. Because, you see, the big picture outcome is you are birthing something in this process, because this process is a process of transformation. By your words, you begin to transform the genetics of your DNA. And your DNA can't stop it because you're the creator. The mind of you creates this world. Creates this world. And a newborn, not a Christian, but the new birth creates a Christ that is contained no more in a theory, but a real one. In fact, that looks like the real you. And the real you is beautiful. No matter whether you're black, blue, gray, brown, or someone says that you look like death warmed over. Maybe you're in a rocking chair, a nursing home, a hospital bed. You feel decrepit. Maybe your body is filled with disease at the moment. Maybe they've given you 6 months to live or less. I'm telling you, the power of God is not separate. And as we begin to look not to another, not to pray outside of us for a miracle, even though at times what we call miracles occur, the power is within you. The power is you. The real you is called to walk in power. Your purpose on earth is to be the Christ. Your mission is to surrender, to create God again. In your consciousness that you no longer hold separate. You see, the story has been so contorted, convoluted, and carefully controlled by religion because they wanted to stay in power. They wanted to keep the ignorant ignorant. They didn't want to give people the words of God. So they said, the word of God is in a book, and you cannot hear God. Don't think you can. Study the Bible. Listen to their sermons. Say the Nicene Creed. And don't be blasphemous. Don't go against our theories. I'm telling you, grow up. And there's cost. It's costly. If you want to know God, you will lose some friends. You may lose them all. You may lose your family. There's not much love that's unconditional. But I am. Or am I these words that I have spoken? Am I? I'm not these protons, electrons, and neutrons you seem to see. Or am I the energy? Or am I the light of another world? The energy that says, you're one too. Not separate. Come into the arms of no other. If you start studying the words in red and open to what's being said, you'll even see Jesus said, at least according to some Bibles, he didn't come to bring peace. He came to bring division. You're creating you at this moment. Don't leave you behind in the things that the Creator is doing with the creation of love. Love each other. Love you first. I have given you many keys. I have given you the key, and I have told you how to use it. I have suggested the path. I am walking the path. I will be born again. I'm born again in the mirror. I'm born again in my consciousness. I am born again in these words, the energy of creation. And I am creating me. And at some moment, I will yet come out of this flesh in a new way. One, that even though I walk in the flesh, I'm not limited to it. So I can do all the miracles Jesus did and more, and you can too. That's what we're becoming, a race. Jesus was the firstborn of many. I suggest to you, a born again is a Christ that does the works Jesus did. And that's what we are learning to do, because we are coming in to knowing who we are, relinquishing our separation, learning who we are, learning to grow up in humility and quit separating us from who we really are, the real us. And that's why I have the School of Me. The School of Me, where people come together. People share, write papers, scholastically rigorous. The grades aren't necessary. The tests aren't necessary. Whether you call it autonomous learning or self-paced learning, you see, it's up to you, day by day, what you're willing to do, what you're willing to learn, what you're willing to hear, and what you're willing to write. The education of God, the system of education, is the operation, in action, the promise of the new covenant. Experience it. Learn to let God be you, and withhold not your beauty from you and your mirror, nor your family. Love each other. Forgive them. Keep your word. Be punctual. Be the real you. I love you. Listen to these words. If you want them, if you want to become them, over and over. I have transcribed several thousand of my teachings like this. Several thousand. They're online. You can even search them. Word search them. And I have often listened to what I record 2, 3, 4, 5 times, sometimes more, during the rest of the day. So I'm me, I am, and I ask you to be the real you that I am is. I love you, and I go now. I seldom teach beyond an hour, and I make often some of these little 1-minute YouTube shorts now. I have over 1,000 videos on YouTube now, about half of them 1 minute long, that cover numerous subjects. And I have, I guess, over 600 teachings that you can come into. You can listen. But listen with love. Listen with intent. Listen with openness. Listen to learn to let God speak to you directly, through you directly, so that you begin to operationalize your leadership of you, to lead you out of the war within, to where you begin to write the first person words of God with definitions that explode the power of light and peace within you. So you begin to learn you are no longer subject to the words that have programmed your life up to now. I'm Theodore Cottingham, a simple man in Eureka Springs. I love you all. On the web, you can search those words. You can search over 2,000 posts I've made. The School of Me.com. Yeah, I've changed the name of the school several times, changed the domain name. But you can reach me at theschoolofme.com. And I hope you will. Contact me. You can write me at Box 34 in Eureka Springs, Arkansas. You can subscribe to this YouTube channel, these teachings. You can subscribe. You can become a member of the school if you so choose at the website, theschoolofme.com, has the links. And I love you. Share these words. Share your love. Live the love. And realize you have the power to quell the war within, to torture you no more, and walk with love, joy, and peace, learning to love every person on earth. Yay. Thank you again for sharing this time with me. I love you. Good day.